Point number one with verbal communication is filter your excesses. We spoke about efficiency and potency. It's communication per word or unit of time. And so a lot of us use filler words like, like very excess in our communication, and it waters down the potency of the communication. None of that, like if you don't use any filler words whatsoever, it can appear unnatural because everybody does it. So a little bit's fine. But if there's a lot of them, it's good to put that through a strainer. Put all that through a strainer, like expend the mental energy to tighten it up. And one thing to really keep in mind is right at the start, when you start talking, there's a tendency often to begin with, that's an easy one that you could clear. The other component of this is over communicating. So if what you're trying to say could be said with the same degree of impact in 1 minute, but it takes 5 or 10 minutes because you're meandering, it's going to water down the impact. That doesn't mean it has to take a short period of time. There are points that I make that take a little longer because I'm telling a story, but that story might add to the overall impact. And so the potency of it is actually greater as a result. So it's not necessarily units of time. It's not be super, super short. It's just be efficient and filter out the excesses that don't need to be there. Over communicating is to me often a sign of either fear. I see it really often when myself or somebody else, if we're afraid in the communication to any degree, anxious, a little bit intimidated, not really sure of ourselves, there's a tendency to kind of ramble or search for your words. And that's a clear sign when super long text messages that don't need to be that long, like self-justifying, that form of over-communication is often due to fear. So you can notice if you're doing that, or if somebody else is doing that on the flip side, you could notice, oh, this person's a little bit afraid. What can I do for them? How can I put them at ease? With people that are strong communicators and sort of self-sufficient, sure of themselves, often I notice they have really short, like text, email communication. It's really short and simple, you know? So it's something to notice. And then not always is it fear. It's often, you know, I had an ex-girlfriend that used to call it dribbling. She dribbled. She was like just talk, like rambly. She was really charming, so she got away with it. But she's like, oh yeah, I've been dribbling for years. And to her, it wasn't a problem. But sometimes like, fuck, dude, you know, this is a lot. And in that case, it's laziness. It's laziness. So it does take a little bit of effort to notice that, filter it out, filter your excesses, make it more potent, efficient, and the value of your communication will increase. And with those excess words, feel free to just pause. There's a lot of times where a pause, you notice this in stand-up comedy. They'll pause at the right time to time the joke. If they roll straight into the joke, sometimes there's not that moment of anticipation that makes the joke hit, and so it falls flat. So comedians are really good to watch for this. They pause at regular cadences when the time's right. So rather than filling that time, there's like a little bit of bubbling up energy, just pause. Steve Jobs was dope at this. If there's a clip online of him speaking to some classroom. Student asks him a question, and he probably paused. This is a bit excessive, but he paused for 45 seconds probably. And he just stood there like this, thinking about it. Visibly, he's considering it. And the whole time you can feel the audience is just like, oh, this is going to be good. And the longer he paused, the more you realize, like, paid attention. So pausing, again, 45 seconds, pretty dramatic, but pausing is not a bad thing, it's a good thing, and it's better than filling that time with just excess. 2, use clear, simple language. That sounds really clear and simple, I think, but it might be more powerful than you realize. Are you familiar, Mace or Colt, with the Agora copywriting experiment? They ran all of their best performing sales letters of all time. Agora is a massive financial company. I don't know, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars? In the billions. Yeah, in the billions of dollars, direct response marketing company over many, many years. They ran their best performing sales letters through one of those language analyzers that tells you what grade level you're writing at. And what they found, all of them had in common, is that their best performing sales letters were written at a 3rd grade level. The language was clear and simple. It was easy to understand. And if someone's using a lot of flowery, fancy words, fancy terminology, usually at best that's going to be harder for people to understand. And even people that do understand it would understand it better if it was clearer. I was facilitating a ayahuasca ceremony a number of years ago, like 2019, in a support role. And one of the other support people came over to me halfway through the night, and understand we're in the dark, we're high. It's not all that easy to operate under those circumstances. And so she comes over to me and starts saying this indecipherable new age language. If you feel called and it's in the flow, there's opportunity for service. Like, the fuck are you trying to say to me? What? And it turned out after 3 to 5 minutes of me like trying to hear her, first of all, whispering to me and trying to decode the message, it turned out somebody just needed help a couple seats over. It's like, what have we been talking about this whole time? Like, totally incomprehensible. Whereas, hey, she needs help. Can you go over there? Much, much better. So clear, simple language. Number 3, speak for yourself. Speak in terms of your own needs, wants, feelings, and experience, not in terms of statements about the other person. So not "you're a liar," but "will you text me next time when you're going to be home late? I'd rather know than wonder." Not "you're always working and I never see you," but "I know you're working really hard, but I'd love to see you on Friday. Can we schedule something?" Not "this is a bad show," speaking for everyone. This show is bad, but I'm not really enjoying this show. Or I'm not enjoying this show because of X. Does that make sense? Speak in terms of your own experience rather than speaking for the other person, using you statements, calling the other person names and giving them labels. Avoid at all costs labeling other people. And notice as well how often you want to do this by default. You did this. There's an example here saying carbs are bad for you at breakfast versus "I get sleepy when I eat carbs at breakfast." See the difference? Carbs are bad for you implies way too much control. Like, the fuck are you to say carbs are bad? Might be good for some people. In my experience, I get sleepy. And we said this at the first retreat in the social intelligence talk, soften your words. And I don't think I got the point across clearly. Soften your words doesn't mean speak really softly. It means use words that are digestible by the other person. So avoid sharp words that are aimed at another person. Avoid, if you can, sharp words in general, or use them very sparingly. Use them like a little bit of spice in a dish. Right dose. And I'm talking about words like hate, idiot, stupid, pathetic, disgusting, loser, fool, really worthless. See what I mean? when I say it, like you maybe even you notice a feeling in your body. There's a feeling to those words. It's like, what's that?
More visceral.
It's more visceral. And that could be good, but usually not. And especially if you're doing it all the time, it's like way too much. Too much spice ruins the dish. And even when talking with someone else about something unrelated to that person, oh, I hate that show. I hate that guy. That guy's stupid. Even if I'm not saying like you're stupid, the reaction you might have is like, that's a bit harsh, dude. Yeah. I don't think I want to talk to you anymore. Like this isn't pleasant. So the analogy we used on year 1 was baby food. Babies don't have well-developed teeth. So we give them smooth, it goes down smoothly, soften your words. And that doesn't mean pussyfoot around. It just means use language that's digestible, receivable.
I had a very tangible experience of that recently. I met this dude who was actually like a nice guy, but he was just, every sentence he would say like shit. He was like, yeah, dude, I was just smoking and shit. And like I was out there shit. Like, and after like 10 minutes of talking to this guy, I was like, oh my God. Like I felt like I was getting slapped in the face every time.
Yeah.
He gave me like a really like tangible experience. Like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. And otherwise he's cool, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so it can ruin, like too much of the one little ingredient can ruin the whole thing. It's a pattern. I don't see that often, but I see it like sometimes where someone overuses a single word. So yeah, if you use any words regularly, single words like over and over and over, I don't see anybody in here doing that, but folks at home, that's not advisable. Hey, it's Taylor. I hope you enjoyed today's clip. And if you did, here's where you can go deeper right now. So my favorite part of the work that I do here is a daily email newsletter that I write every morning on the topics of human development and human potential, life strategy, training the mind, productivity and life optimization, and generally speaking, the path to self-mastery. And so if you enjoy these talks, I know you're going to love the newsletter. And if you'd like to check it out, hit the link in the description or head over to taylorallen.me and you can sign up free of charge. I hope we see you there.